We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion. Over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Why it could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hey everybody, this is Smiles Lewis and...
Hey everybody, Mark Jackson. Hi Smiles.
Hey man, great to see you. This is another live edition of Anomaly-NOW, straight out of Austin, Texas, January 27th, 2021. And this is the weekly news roundup of the Anomaly Archives Scientific Anomaly Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit based here in Austin, Texas. And so happy to be here live with you over the intertubes. And thank you for joining us now live and forever, and or listening in the archives or whatever, however you listen to us or watch us. Thank you. Man, how you doing?
Good, Miles. Hey, about how you listen to us, interesting. I think we corresponded about this a little bit earlier, but folks are asking me how they can call into the show, ask us questions about our content, because of course, you and I are little pack rats. We put as many stories as we can into our lineup each week, and not going into them in the depth that, you know, some folks would like to. So anyway, for those out there that would want to pump the brakes, you know, give us a little shout out and ask for some more information or at least some references or some guidance, etc. Hey man, do we have an update on how that might be possible? Can we get folks on the line and get them some information as the show is airing, etc.?
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, and it was a great synchronicity, having been discussing this very technical detail behind the scenes when you emailed me about that or messaged me. Yeah, so I actually have a phone number that folks can call. Not tonight. We can't do it tonight. It's not set up yet. We need to do some more tests, but I've had it for years, and it's a great service that I've been using for all these years and not using actually. And I'll give the number out, but it's not going to do any good for you tonight. But for folks that are interested in the near future, we will hopefully be able to start taking calls and interacting more with our listeners. And so in the future, we have a local number that, you know, nowadays with everybody's got cell phones or VoIP phone channels, they can call us for free probably, but this is not a toll-free number. Long distance charges may apply, but we do have a number, and it's 512 AR1 for UFO. Yeah. That's right. That's 512-271-4836. Anyway, yeah, no, we'll in the very near future, maybe we'll see how quickly we can get that up and operational. But there's a good chance that in the near future that folks will be able to reach out and interact over the phone lines with us. And of course,
the program's moving forward. I mean,
yeah,
these are the steps we're taking. And for everybody out there, there's so much to unpack every week. Of course, Miles does all the upfront work, gets all these stories compiled into one space on Flipboard, etc. But, you know, one or two questions across the number of listeners we have, you know, that can just, you know, advance or compel a myriad of other lines or threads to pull that you might want to think. So Anyway, you guys would be surprised at one or two phone calls during this of what we could do for our audience, and we thank you for that. Thanks, Miles.
Absolutely. Man, so there's been some information, some headlines dealing with the idea of first contact. But before we get to that, I know that we've multiple times referenced articles coming out of thedrive.com. They are one of the aviation technology oriented websites that's been driving. Thedrive.com has been driving some commentary on the subjects of UFOs, aka UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, in relation to largely the release of information facilitated by the To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge's organization that has all these big wigs from the military-industrial complex. And one of their subsections at the Drive is articles written by Brett Tingley, as we in a recent article or recent episodes of Anomaly-NOW were referring to his articles. But they have a section called The War Zone, where they have been covering all kinds of technology related to aviation warfare, defense, as they like to call it, so that it doesn't sound like, the Office of the War Department kind of thing. And meanwhile, there's this big article that we've got that we'll have the link to in the show notes. Navy UFO patent documents talk of quote unquote space-time modification weapon. Detail experimental testing, and it mentions that the Navy has spent 3 years and considerable sums of money testing the Paez effect. I'm not sure if that's how that's pronounced. It's
that's the scientist's last name, Paez. Yeah,
Paez, and this is a pretty lengthy and involved article that does all the good journalistic aspects of who, what, when, why. Again, like 3 years of investigation, and I think nearly $500,000 over the course of 3 years. I mean, that's not chump change, but it's not huge numbers. But I mean, to you and I, that's probably pretty big. $500,000, like $470 some odd $1,000 for research into this, like real world experiments. Into this technology that might in fact be related to UFOs, but which is, let's see, the releases, which are all related to a naval innovative science and engineering / basic and applied research program under the project name HEEMFG. Wait a minute. MFG? Oh, I'm thinking of BMFG, Big Mother
Miles.
Gun. Yeah, no, the high energy electromagnetic field generator. Yeah,
right. But Miles, let's parse this out real quick. Here, 3 or 4 weeks ago, could be a few months ago now, we had a number of stories on the Flipboard where we were sharing. It wasn't Cora, it was another journalistic outlet, and we actually brought them back up a few weeks later, because they were the ones that took the screenshots from Chris Mellon, who, of course, is associated with the Drive. He's also associated with State Department. We've now found out that Chris was the one that originally gave the authorization to release the Tic Tac videos and all of that from 2004. But even go back a number of our shows, you and I made a point to show I guess bullet by bullet what was getting funded out of the amount of money that you're speaking to now. And if you'll bring that screen back up for that particular shot, it's interesting now, after that story came out, the Drive and other journalistic folks are starting to, we're starting to get the drip in terms of what the specifics were out of those bullet points that were encompassed in Mellon's original bullet list of stuff that was originally under OSAP and ATIP, not necessarily TTSA, but the programs, of course, that precursored the congealment of those various figures and personalities, etc. So here we go, more of the same. We continue to unpack, and it seems like we're kind of right on the front edge of this thing, and I appreciate your attention to detail on that.
Yeah, what's been released on this high energy electromagnetic field generator, HEEMFG, hundreds of pages containing detailed technical drawings, photographs, and data related to actual tests of this. And that the system was meant to evaluate the feasibility of Dr. Salvatore Pais's claimed Pais effect. I'm really not familiar with what this Pais effect is, but they go so far as to say in the documents that a weapon that can make the hydrogen bomb seem more like a firecracker in comparison, calling it an SMW, Spacetime Modification weapon. And the documents detail this real world experiments where they were spinning some kind of disc shape a mechanism at an extremely high rate of speed, and the idea being that somehow it could cause extreme electromagnetic effects that would be, pardon the pun, explosive. But they don't seem to really go into what the expected effects are. But the drive have been going into, like, there's links to at least 5 or maybe even 10 more articles, at least 5 of the articles that they say document Dr. Pais's science fiction-like inventions that he made on behalf of the Navy. Now, I was pleased to see, after I was thinking this myself in the article, the drive.com are getting more Freedom of Information Act requests in to try to continue to tease out this story, as well as going directly to the organizations that are doing this research to see if they can get any publicly disseminatable information. And they say here further on in the article, the further our investigation continues, the more it seems like the patents of Dr. Salvatore Pais are exactly what they appear to be: hypothetical applications of theoretical physics the Navy thinks are viable enough to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, again, almost $500,000 over 3 years, and possibly much more to someday be able to master. Yet, considering there have been all types of theories ranging from, and this is what I was getting to, ranging from a government disinformation campaign to alien emulation technology behind these patents, we still can't say conclusively what is going on here. Now, that's about 2/3 of the way through this article, where they, say what I was thinking, as far as like, well, you do always have to consider the possibility that, like some, myself included, have thought about the TTSA campaign, that perhaps it's somehow tied to some actual operation on the part of the military industrial intelligence complex that may have nothing to do with what you or I are interested in, as far as extraterrestrial intelligence, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs, the classic flying saucers, and so forth, and that kind of technology. It may have more to do with an intelligence operation where you put out information and try to track where it goes so that you can see who's paying attention, and that can out all kinds of intelligence operatives and information that could prove helpful in a modern intelligence environment. Or the other idea here, perhaps, like the classic idea of Star Wars, the defense SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, being a red herring designed to make other governments, in that case the Soviet Union, spend too much money on stuff that will not work, or would be so expensive and time consuming to make it work that you just depleted what resources they had. Here too could be, maybe could this be all an elaborate op, or, as they say, is it as straightforward as it appears, and as it's presented, that there are these novel effects that may have been reverse engineered, in the sense of, you observe strange, weird aerial phenomena and you go, I wonder how that could actually work. And then you maybe extrapolate and come up with some new propulsion technology without even necessarily having, quote unquote, a crashed saucer to reverse engineer. So fascinating reportage going on over at the Drive, as usual. And this one, again, by Brett Tingley. And I just got to love it.
And Miles, let's remember that what the Drive does, and I think what you really elegantly captured, was this idea of how mathematicians, sort of adjust or rectify themselves with physicists and physicists and mathematicians then, pushing the boundaries of material science. So you sort of have this triangle where you have formulas and you have physicists that, physicists understand the way the formulas react in the face of the actual environment in which we exist. And then you have material scientists that give us that little bit of ability to tweak both of the other two corners of that triangle. And I think it's exciting that that's happening because, previously, particularly material science, whether that's some sort of exotic ceramics or alloys or some of these other things, they just simply haven't been available until literally today. And I think that that's what makes it relevant. And I think that's what's going to keep us tracking on this thing.
And that's the thing that always gets me about skeptics who poo-poo the idea that anything valuable could ever come out of the study of such anomalous, frou-frou UFO sightings or whatever. It's like, well, that's where innovation happens. It's these earliest scientists who were watching nature, watching animals in nature, or watching just how things happen in the natural environment, and asking questions and doing experiments and discovering forces that they never knew existed. And it is absolutely a fact of science and reality to observe things and try things out and learn new ways of doing things. And you can, and like, I think what you're intimating of, often these most advanced theoreticians can imagine things that we just can't do yet, but eventually, there's some breakthrough. Again, whether it's fine ceramics. I remember when I was first reading about fine ceramics, and no, I don't mean like, nice, highly artisan pottery, but that's basically, there's these manufacturing techniques and technologies that haven't existed until they do. And then once they do, we can do amazing things that we weren't able to do before. So there's innovation around every corner. And I think the anomalous is an excellent opportunity for people to brainstorm and experiment and come up with new ways of doing things that can really advance science and human civilization and culture. Oh, it gets me so excited.
Miles, I'm looking at the lineup you put for us tonight here, just on Flipboard. We got the UF Patton stuff, of course, the Paez. Man, you got that brain-eating Parasite, which is just freaky. We've talked about that very briefly in a couple of other shows, but to know that sort of symbiotic, parasite is so pervasive in the environment is concerning, to say the least. We got some different ET signals. I think you had Earth's going to consider building the largest telescope on the backside of the moon, which I think is really interesting. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, because you're shielding that particular instrument from a lot of earthborne signals or other sort of interferences, etc. However, every time I look at that darn article, it sure looks like the Death Star from Star Wars to me.
Doesn't it? Yes.
It's like this moon with this giant dish in it. And you're like, oh, okay, what are we going to do with this thing?
That's no moon. Yeah.
So, it's funny, which comes first, the science or the science fiction, right?
Well, touching on the parasite, parasite resembling hair takes over insects and turns them into zombies, experts say. What caught my attention with this is the fact that this was the StarTelegram.com, the Fort Worth Star Telegram, Texas.
Man, look how big those are, Miles.
Well,
that's not a microscope, bro. I mean, that's something you can like pull out of your ear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're commonly referred to as horsehair worms, because there's folklore This was another aspect of this. At the very end of this article, they say, coincidentally, the worm's very fitting name refers to folklore that insisted they were born from horse hairs that fell into water and came to life, according to the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment at the University of Kentucky. So there's a nice little tie-in to folklore. But periodically I see news articles about this, or I'll come across YouTube videos where people are like, what the heck is this? And they see some kind of worms in a puddle of water, or and they're moving in ways that worms do, but it just seems really creepy. But what caught my attention in this case, besides just having an interest in this idea of parasites that can control the behavior of the hosts they inhabit, is just how prevalent this is, but the fact that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was using this as an opportunity to spread a little knowledge, some scary fear-based knowledge perhaps, but it was this U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's, I guess, their social media, maybe their Facebook page, where they were posting this video and educating the public about the fact that these exist, but that they're safe they don't affect humans, apparently, allegedly. But that they are one of these worms that can infect insects and control their behavior, though they don't go into what behavior they control in this particular article. Usually it's some kind of behavior that is antithetical to the host's survival, and thus why they are considered parasites. You may have heard there's a similar one that I think can infect, actually the thing I'm thinking of now may be a fungus. I forget. It's obviously very different than a worm or a virus, but things that infect, parasites that infect different types of living systems and cause them to commit behaviors that ultimately are deleterious to the host. So like there's ants and others that will like go, the infection causes them to go to a high place and thus become potential prey of birds or other predators that are interested in that host as protein, and thus the cycle is continued, and the infection is spread, usually through the poop or some other factor. But also, the other thing that caught my eye with this U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service campaign in social media was the fact that they were really capitalizing on popular culture in the form of science fiction and horror tropes. The fact that they were, saying it will take over the host insect like a zombie, or, it'll burst forth from the insect's abdomen like a chest burster alien. So they're really having some fun with it. And while a lot of times I might be, negatively angered at, mainstream news outlets or such types of organizations, government or otherwise, taking advantage of scientific interest, in such a fun way. But this is fun. This isn't just like, we're talking about UFOs, so we're going to use the Twilight Zone music or something like that. Or maybe is it the equivalent to that? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, what I think is, if there's a guy with glasses, kind of, smaller in stature, and a long white coat in the back of the room with his hand up in the air, and we're all talking about pathogens, I'm going to call on him and say, yeah, everybody please be quiet. I'm sorry, mister in the back, can you please tell me what you had to say? Because there's only a few of us that are going to know what's going on, and I'm all ears, bud.
Well, this, of course, also reminded me of the version of this that allegedly can affect humans, and that's toxoplasmosis.
Yes. A
disease that results from infection with the Toxoplasma gondii parasite, one of the world's most common parasites. A common parasite. Infection usually occurs by eating undercooked contaminated meat, exposure from infected cat feces. Well, who hasn't touched infected cat feces? I mean, if what is it, 30 to 50% of any country's populace are, cat people like myself, we're all infected, man. But it's fascinating to me, this idea of how something as microscopic or as small as these things are could affect the behavior of these larger hosts. And so when you get to our scale, I'm like, holy crap, like, wow, this is the stuff of great science fiction in my mind. I mean, there's so much in the realm of mind control that fascinates me, whether it's the idea of governments and humans manipulating each other using electromagnetics and mind control technology, or like we talk about, the simplest way of inducing an altered state in yourself by watching flickering lights in a fire, or binaural beats creating out-of-body experiences, allegedly with the Monroe Institute technology. All of this fascinates me.
It wasn't but last week, Miles, where we were talking about the means and measures that were being agreed upon across the various accords and international agreements by which, different, governments, policies, essentially, we're going to bring spacefaring material in and out of our nice little biosphere. And it makes me think of that too, how with the human creature, us as an animal being so cognitive, or at least to what point we think we are, we have a lot of entry points for disruption within that neural network, just because we have such a complex neural network by which we navigate our physical world, right? So even the smallest little disruptor to that system could reverberate, inconsequent. I mean, to a point that we would have no idea even what to expect. So, I mean, I think this is a great segue to look back at what we talked about last week, and this need for sterilization for both either the notion that there's a statistical probability, there's confirmation that there already is, or in the just in case chance, that we bring biological material back within our biosphere. Hey man, that's real, and we got to be ready for it.
Yeah. And thus the lockdown and quarantine of returning astronauts, and anybody that could have been exposed to War of the Worlds level contamination. Which, and you mentioned earlier, so we'll post the links. There's 3 articles. We're not going to get into all of these, but yeah, like you mentioned, building Earth's largest telescope on the far side of the moon. That's from CBC Radio, and this idea that that by putting it on the far side of the moon, it eliminates a lot of the interference that is caused by human technology, our atmosphere, the Earth's electromagnetic field, all these different aspects of all the energies that are out there that can get in the way of trying to see clearly with these electromagnetic sensing devices. And we've mentioned multiple times the depressing and sad demise of the Arecibo, one of the larger of these types of arrays. And obviously, we're a long way off, unless there's a secret space program that's already built one, from building this. Yes, but it ties in with these other articles that we'll be posting. ET signal from Proxima Centauri, a conversation with Breakthrough Initiatives Pete Worden, a philanthropist who is funding all of this breakthrough initiative research, trying to look for I forget what they're calling them, but it's the signatures for life or other civilizations that aren't I think it's techno signatures. Really interesting but brief interview with Mr. Pete Worden that gets to this idea of what are we going to do? Is there a protocol? Is there a secret government Men in Black program that's going to immediately clamp down on the revelation and rewrite people's memory of it? Or is it going to be just some kind of like, whoops, there's a leak, as there was with this Proxima Centauri news that we've gotten this amazing signal and it leaks to the media, and does it create a panic? And all of this, of course,
Miles, I mean, we have a fairly good sense of what our sensor technologies are on the Earth, whether that be spectral, you have gaseous, all these different, the different phases, right? Solid, liquid, gas, vapor. We have all these sensors. Hey, man, do you think we're ready to pick up on and properly gauge whatever the universe might be throwing at this little blue marble? I'm not, I don't know if we should be in this take it as it comes sort of scenario. I'm these days anymore, I'm leaning with this whole narrative, not necessarily of spaceships with laser beams, but hey, we're in this. We've broken this envelope, the umbilical of the Earth to the other celestial bodies, and man, we got to have our immune system jacked up, don't we?
So yeah, what is our response as a global civilization, as humanity? Are we prepared? Should we have just a haphazard response? No, it would be better to be prepared. I completely agree. And when reading these articles that we've alluded to about the possible alien signals, and of course apparently that Proxima Centauri, they're now saying, oh no, it's just microwave interference, don't worry. But they do talk in that article about, well, what should the protocol be, but it reminded me of something from 10 years ago. And my memory is good in some things, bad in others. This immediately popped into my mind, mainly because I thought it was a hilarious synchronicity, or was it a hoax on the part of a Fortean in the news media? I'm not sure. You decide. But recall that back in 2010, there were headlines like the UN's secretive alien ambassador. That was from the headline from The Economist. Or extraterrestrial edge helps. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. Where's the other one? Mazlan, Othman, not Earth's alien ambassador after all. That was one of the follow-up articles. And these other follow-up articles were astrophysicists deny she is UN's new alien ambassador. So there was all this mainstream news coverage. I mean, it was voluminous. It was all over the wires, all around the world about this obscure UN employee who was being described as the United Nations alien ambassador. And her name, I just said it, Mazlan, Mazland, last name Othman, Othman. You're seeing it here. Okay. So yeah, first initial M, last name Othman, MOthman. So Earth's alien ambassador was the Mothman, except it wasn't a man, it was a woman.
Oh, it's anyway, like that to where you just kind of go to yourself, are they that dumb? Is somebody having that much fun? Is it that obvious? I mean, just stuff like that is just, oh, you know what? It's fun to think about. Who knows?
And hey, who am I to deny the possibility that maybe some insider in the secret space program, black budget project for the United States military industrial complex was like, how can we indoctrinate the public? How can we better do a stealth disclosure, but through viral marketing where they go, it was all a joke, but it got people thinking about it.
Yeah.
It totally got people thinking about it, because most people would hear that news and there would be very little follow-up by mainstream media. I mean, there was. I'll try to post these links. These are 10 years old, so a lot of them don't go anywhere. There, you'll have to use the archive.org website to find the originals. But could it be? Or was it just a synchronicity?
Thinking completely. It makes so many sense. It makes so much sense on so many levels. Creativity. I mean, how exactly... Well, that's it. I mean, there's as many options as there are minds, as they say. So,
well, we have reached just over the 30-minute mark, and I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for
one quick thing, man.
Yeah, what's up?
Jump in. Hey, everybody! I just went back and found this book. It's called The Granite Man and the Butterfly. And this is a book by Gian Manning, but it's actually a story about David Hamill, who had survived some very heroic incidences in World War I and World War II, but he'd received some actual mechanical or engineering images in his head that he ended up building. And ironically, both the French government and the U.S. government gave him money to fund this contraption that he had drawn out, and at a very small bench scale at his farm had proven enough operability where the governments got interested in this. Now, the book is very interesting. It's a short read. The point here is that the Granite Man and the Butterfly will be available through the archives. So if anybody wants to come over there, it'll be in one of our rolling book sections or etc. But as we continue to add books to the archives, this is just yet another one. I just want to show this real quick. They'll inspire you to make your own drawings of the type of engineering drawings. And some of these books that these folks give you, it's fun to sit down and put the creative noodle to work when you actually have that source material to work with. So anyway, that book, Miles, just very quickly, The Granite Man and the Butterfly, that's going to get loaned out to the library or over to the archives. Folks, pick that thing up. Let's compare notes on it. I think that's kind of the core of what the archives is about. And Miles, myself, and other continue to build the backlog and new material, et cetera, to have these sort of, these dialogues and narratives. Even though these are tough times, they can still happen. So, Miles, anyway, just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. And we and myself and others that support the archives will continue to loan book to the archives for anybody that's interested in this type of material.
Right on. Well, stay right there, Mark, and we can talk after we close out the show. And thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week. Good night.
Good night.